Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this regular meeting of the HERE Commission to order at 6:36 p.m., and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Chair Goto.
Please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Adrian, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Brandhog,
Here?
Commissioner Travis Morris, Commissioner Chen,
Present.
Commissioner Herrera, Commissioner Khan,
Here.
Vice Chair Goto,
Here.
Chair Jennings Nunez,
Here.
Youth Ambassador Aaron Situ,
Here.
Youth Ambassador Kelly Munoz Rios.
Here.
Thank you. We will now have some announcements from our staff liaison, Matthew Morales-Stevens.
Tonight's meeting is live streamed on cable channel 3 and our online platforms. If you wish to address the HERE Commission during tonight's meeting, we request that you please complete a speaker's card and hand it to the clerk, Adrian Franquez. When speaking, please state your name for the record. If you wish to be added to the distribution list to receive HERE Commission agendas, please email your request to herecommission@sgch.org.
Thank you, Matthew. So now we'll move on to approval of agenda order. Are there any objections to the agenda order?
I'd like to propose that we switch the work plan with the Wellness Expo, so that we can make sure we get through everything for the Wellness Expo planning.
I second that.
Okay, if there aren't any other objections, then Daniel, can we please vote on that motion?
Commissioner Brandhog,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Khan,
I support.
Vice Chair Goto,
Aye.
Chair Jennings Nunez.
Aye.
Motion passed by a vote of 5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, and 2 absent.
Thank you. So we are now at the time for public comment. This is the time set aside for members of the public to address the HERE Commission on items of interest that are not on the agenda but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the HERE Commission. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the HERE Commission cannot answer any questions or take any action until such time as the matter may appear as an item on a future agenda. If you wish to address the HERE Commission, please fill out a speaker's card and hand it to the clerk. Matthew, do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Any from the audience? And then 3A, we'll approve our minutes. So Matthew, do we have any public comments on this action item?
We do not.
Thank you. I know that Vice Chair Goto sent in some corrections that Danielle has already taken into account. Are there any other corrections to the minutes from May 23rd? If not, if I could have a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
And I'll second.
Thank you. Adrian, if you can please take the vote. I think I've called you Danielle like 4 times. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Brandhog,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Khan,
I
Vice Chair Goto,
Aye.
Chair Jennings Nunez.
Aye.
Motion passed by a vote of 5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, and 2 absent.
We'll start with our first discussion item for tonight, which is a fun item and just one that we wanted to to perform for our newest members to the commission. So since we started the commission in 2021, one of our first tasks, our goal was to increase youth engagement. And along with that, we really wanted to make sure that the youth voice in our city was acknowledged and incorporated into what we are trying to do as part of the HERE Commission. And so we made it our goal to establish a role of youth ambassador. It took us a little bit of time, but we really wanted to get it right. And so our youth ambassador, the purpose is to work directly with the San Gabriel HERE Commission, serving as a hands-on community-level experience person, develop leadership skills through monthly HERE Commission meetings focused on strengthening the youth voice on issues related to human equity, access, and relations, to learn about various equity and access issues impacting San Gabriel City residents, and on how the HERE Commission and the various departments within the City of San Gabriel work to address them, and to advise and make appropriate recommendations regarding issues of special interest to youth within the City of San Gabriel, and to help guide the work of the HERE Commission and the city departments. So we would like to welcome our two youth ambassadors. They are both Gabrielino High School students. We have Kelly, Rios, Kelly, thank you. We have Kelly Munoz Rios, who is a rising junior at Gabrielino High School. And then we have Aaron Situ, who is a rising junior also at Gabrielino High School. And we just want to present them both with a certificate from the City of San Gabriel that says, in recognition of your appointment as Youth Ambassador to the Human Equity, Access, and Relations Commission, the City of San Gabriel and staff extend their sincere congratulations to you. And then if we could take an official picture out, that would be great.
I didn't even have batteries. I was like,
Oh, it says mine.
No, I don't want to. Just kidding. Okay. You want to say 1, 2, 3?
Sure.
Okay.
1, 2, and 3.
All right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And hold on. One more. Keep those smiles up. 1, 2, 3. Yay. Yeah. Let me
Well, thank you very much. And Kelly and Aaron have already proven themselves very engaged, very active, and they are going to be really incredible additions to our commission. So, but we just wanted to kind of officially welcome you with a certificate. So we will move on now to discussion item 4B. And we are honored today and excited to have a guest speaker. We haven't had a speaker in a few meetings, and so this is going to be really wonderful. Jorge Rivera is here today and is one of the co-founders of the Healing and Justice Center. And I met Mr. Rivera at a city council meeting a few months ago when he was presenting on this topic, and really felt that it was consistent, again, with our purpose and goals of trying to promote equity and inclusion and access for our residents. And he is going to speak today on digital equity. And for those who haven't heard of that term before, and I hadn't before I encountered him at the city council meeting, and I'm sure Mr. Rivera is going to tell us a lot more about it. But digital equity is a condition in which all individuals and communities have the information technology capacity needed for full participation in our society, democracy, and economy. And so Mr. Rivera is going to tell us about a little bit more about what digital equity means and how we can hopefully promote it for our residents and for LA County in general. Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Well, thank you very much, commissioners, ambassadors, staff, and everybody else for having me here to present. It's a privilege and an honor. As stated, my name is Jorge Rivera. I am the executive co-director and co-founder of the Healing and Justice Center. We're a newer nonprofit community-based organization established about 3 years ago. I've been working in the nonprofit world for a little over 10 years, have been a community organizer, organizing for tenants' rights and affordable housing for the most part. But at the same time that I was doing all of that work, I was actually embarking on my own personal healing journey, learning a lot about what it means to heal from past experiences, learning different trauma healing modalities, and then really we developed the organization because we wanted to marry and combine both the healing practices that we were learning as well as the social justice advocacy work that we were doing, because even in our organizing and in our advocacy in those circles, a lot of us come to those spaces with a lot of our own harm and past experiences. And so we experienced a lot of conflict amongst each other as we were striving for equity and for social justice. And so we formed the Healing and Justice Center because we felt that it was vital in our advocacy and our organizing to be able to strengthen relationships, heal each other, and heal our communities from all of the social and systemic pressures and oppression that we've experienced. So thank you very much for having me here today. I wanted to start just by telling you a little bit about, I don't know what happened there, who we are, but so I don't know if that's just, well, our mission, as Matthew is working on that technical issue, our mission is to support BIPOC individuals, communities, and organizations by facilitating safe healing and connected spaces. We do this through tailored programs, services, and advocacy with healing and justice in mind. We aim to create a world where everyone can fully realize their potential and individuals feel seen, heard, and valued. And some of our, a lot of our work is around healing and wellness, building healthy relationships, and as you know, advocacy and movement building as well. The Healing Justice Center is a worker, self-directed nonprofit, and we stand in solidarity and support individuals and communities. We want to help other groups, organizations, and just people in general to develop cultures of wellness and healing in all of what they do, because social justice work, healing, equity work is very stressful. We experience a lot of burnout. We experience a lot of vicarious trauma. And so we want to make sure that people are taking care of each other, themselves, and the communities that they serve, all the while they're doing that work, so that we can just build a more cohesive and connected community. And so our work is founded on dismantling systems of oppression and ensuring that everybody has equal access or equitable access to whatever they need to thrive. The services that, well, we focus in on 3 main areas: advocacy services and programs. Our advocacy is around tenants' rights, affordable housing, digital equity, and healing and wellness. Our services include embodied wellness, Dance from the Heart, which is in partnership with another organization called Critical Mass Dance Company, where we actually use movement-based healing practices, dancing, to be able to get back into our bodies and connect our mind with our bodies and start the healing process from there. Because a lot of time therapy is very heady and can be very, very mental, and we're not really connecting with the traumas that our bodies have experienced as well. And a lot of us disassociate from maybe some uncomfortable feelings that we have in our bodies, and we don't have the language to describe the experiences that we're having in our bodies because we haven't been raised with that type of language. And so we really, embodied wellness incorporates connecting the two. We also do nonviolent communication, which stems from Marshall Rosenberg's work, which basically it focuses in on making non-judgmental and critical observations about what's happening, identifying feelings, identifying human basic needs, and then making requests of one another so that we're able to understand each other better, more clearly, and we have a communication language that is not threatening, that it's not violent, and it's not harmful. And then we also incorporate a lot of the skills and practices that we do in nonviolent parent education. So we believe that if we're going to raise leaders that are enacting policy and laws and leading our work in the future, we want to make sure that they are empathetic, that they are compassionate, that they are understanding, and that they connect with the people where the policies are going to be made to impact, right? And so we want to make sure that we're raising the next generation of thoughtful, compassionate leaders. And so we do parent education with a social justice lens, making sure that parents have the skills to be able to connect and communicate with their children. That is not blaming, shaming, judgmental, critical, or evaluative. And then our programs, which we have yet to launch, are around compassionate parenting. We're getting certified to be HUD counselors, so that we'll be doing financial management, budgeting, preparing for first-time home buying, and then we also do foreclosure prevention to just make sure that people are staying in their homes. And so a lot of our work is based on several different types of ACEs, but one ACE, which we refer to as adverse community experiences. And this is, I guess, to bring it down into the most simplest terms, hurt people, all right? And so this, I think this diagram, which is pulled from a report that was done several years ago, really highlights kind of how all of that plays out. So zooming in a little bit further, you see the individual, and the individual might experience trauma through whether systemic or structural violence, right? And we see that sometimes in some of the systems that we already participate in, whether it's the judicial system, the educational system, or any other type of system. And they might experience violence, threats of violence, or things or loss, and that can create trauma. And then that trauma then starts to manifest in behavioral things like emotional numbing, avoidance, increased arousal, hyperactivity, or even violence in and of itself. And so that just happens on an individual level. But that individual is part of another world. It's part of a community, right? And so that individual then goes out into the community, right, with those symptoms and with that trauma and with that experience. And if they don't have the skills to be able to regulate emotionally or to help themselves heal, well, then they're going to then manifest those behaviors in the community as well. And then that can then harm others, and then that person harms another person, and it becomes very viral and systemic in that way. And then we start to see a lot of the symptoms in our communities that you see here in this diagram that I think that you are all very much familiar with, especially in this commission that focuses on equity. Poverty, unemployment, disinvestment, deteriorated environments, and everything that I'm sure that you all address here in this space. And there's another ACE that you may or may not be familiar with. It's called adverse childhood experiences, right? And so this is basically a study that was done many years ago that basically concluded that the more adverse childhood experiences that an individual had, the more prone that they are to develop poor health outcomes in their adult lives, right? So it's if you're so bold, you can go online and Google it, adverse childhood experiences. It's a 10-question survey, and the higher score that you have, the higher probability that you have as an adult to develop preventable diseases like high blood pressure, diabetes, and things of chronic pulmonary issues, breathing issues, respiratory issues, things of that sort, right? And it's not so much to scare you and say, oh my God, I'm just gonna die early, but to warn you and to enlighten you on some steps that you might have to take as an individual to start the healing process so that you can avoid some of those health outcomes in the future. And this is and so when we talk about ACEs, whether it's adverse community experiences or adverse childhood experiences, then we need to talk about how that manifests in systemic issues, right? So this is a diagram called the pair of ACEs, which then incorporates adverse community environments, right? Because a lot of the times in our work and in our society, we want to focus in on the top level, what we are able to see, what we see manifest. Substance abuse, domestic violence, incarceration, homelessness, mental illnesses, we address those things, right? And a lot of the times we don't see the results or the outcomes that we would like because we're not really looking in at the underlying factors which are the root causes of many of those societal issues, right? So as a commission focusing on equity, we invite you to explore the underlying causes of some of the things that we're trying to address out there. And so our organization, the healing part, is about trying to heal and mitigate some of the impacts that individuals and community members might have, with poor housing quality or discrimination or poverty and things of that sort, which then manifest in some of the things that we're trying to quote unquote, fix or cure. So as an organization that focuses in on housing and healing, why does digital equity matter to us? And that's just, well, because when COVID-19 hit, we just opened our doors right before. And so a lot of the services and the programs that we wanted to offer the community came complete stop. They didn't even start. And so we had to quickly try to move things online, and we had to quickly try to connect with community members online. And it was such a grueling process because a lot of people didn't have access to either high-speed internet services or the equipment that they need in order to connect and to be able to participate fully. A lot of our parenting programs, the participants are low-income, people of color, not English speakers, right, as their primary language, and they're on their phones a lot. So if I'm sharing a PowerPoint presentation like this, or if I'm trying to share a document, if you've ever been on Zoom on your phone, it's really difficult to be able to navigate all of that. And so we want to make sure that our community is able to connect to the resources and to the services that they need in order to not only survive, but also thrive. And as you probably know, COVID-19, even city council meetings went online. So if you didn't have high-speed internet service, you may not be able to connect to your local government, participate in the civic engagement process. You couldn't go to work, you couldn't see your doctor, you couldn't find out where the COVID resources were. There was so much that was highlighted by the COVID-19 pandemic, and one of which is just connection to resources in the community, which is why we started to see the connection because of COVID-19 and how important actual access to the internet is. And even now, as we're coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, a majority of the workforce is still working from home, all right? And we are still doing dual internet city council meetings, Zoom meetings, while in person as well. And a lot of people are choosing to stay home to be able to participate. So very quickly, we saw the connection to our work and the importance of having internet access. So we see the digital equity as a necessity and not so much a luxury anymore. It should be a utility. It should be a basic human right, just like having water, gas, or electricity is. Because it is, and as we move forward into the future, banking is going to go online. The majority of our jobs are going to go online. And so it's important that the people that are currently most impacted by not having access to the internet actually are able to connect in a very viable way. So it seems like the slides have all sort of like shifted, but so what is the digital divide when we talk about the digital divide? It's just the lack of access to affordable, reliable, high-speed internet, having the adequate devices, and the literacy to be able to harness the power and connect online. And as we saw in the COVID-19 pandemic, largely Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Pacific Islander, BIPOC communities, they were the most disproportionately impacted, not only by the pandemic, but also by having access to the resources to be able to get through the pandemic as well. So we refer to this as the digital divide, because we do have a large sector of our population that is not connected or cannot connect. So you may have heard this term already in the terms of housing. Redlining, it was a practice that was implemented, actually led by the federal government, that actually outlined certain communities in the day and deemed them to be high risk or hazardous communities. And so the federal government and many banks and even local businesses, they didn't invest in those communities because they were considered high risk. So banks didn't make loans, and this started to segregate communities and populations because people weren't able to buy homes, weren't able to move into certain segments, and this created a lot of that segregation and displacement. And so I mentioned this term, and I wanted to, for those that are unfamiliar with the term, because we actually find that our internet service providers are actually doing what we refer to as digital redlining. So on the left side, you see the redlining maps of 1939, 1940s that the banks actually did, and they actually gave colors to the different risk levels, right? And then in the middle graphic, you see the households without internet. And if you overlay the redlining map with that digital map, you can see a pattern that arises, right? And then on the right, you see the 2018 Healthy Places Index also showing the very same pattern. So we find that internet service companies, because they are largely, well, they are completely unregulated right now, because they're not deemed a utility, right? And so they're able to develop communities, develop their broadband networks wherever they feel that is most appropriate to them. And is it a coincidence that they follow the same redlining maps as the past? They would argue not. We don't believe that it's a coincidence. We believe that it's very intentional. And so here's another graphic that shows you kind of like the practice. So on the top left is South LA, Watts, Compton area, and the bottom is Glendale. And that left graphic shows you sort of the broadband competition, right? And competition lowers prices. And so you see that in 2014, at the top in South LA, there was some competition. In 2017, some other competition grew. But look at Glendale. And look at the difference that Glendale had as far as competition. So you can imagine that Glendale, which is a more affluent community, is experiencing lower prices when it comes to internet service provision because they have more competition. Now the graphic on the right, you see from 2014 to 2017, this is there fiber broadband available? There's no difference in South LA, Watts. There's no fiber available in those communities. And fiber is the best type of broadband access because it doesn't fill up, it doesn't get stuck. You can have the entire community on it and it won't get clogged up and it won't slow down, as with cable does. If everybody in your community is on at the same time, you experience slower internet speeds, right? And so look at Glendale, the fiber that was produced in 3 years compared to lower income communities such as South LA. A very distinct and stark difference, and again, is it intentional? We would argue not, right? So now that leads us to what digital equity is. And as you probably know, the term equity, it just means that we need to have everybody be able to participate fully in all of the resources of our community, even in civic engagement process such as city council meetings or commission meetings. So digital equity is necessary for everything, for health, civic, cultural participation, employment, and just lifelong learning and access to essential services. Which is why, again, we're in this fight. What some core pillars, as I've already mentioned, are the three: have to have reliable and affordable broadband access. You have to have the adequate devices in order to connect to those that access, and you have to have the digital literacy skills and supports. Like I think about my mom, right? My mom, if she opened up a laptop, she wouldn't know what to do with it, right? She wouldn't even know how to turn it on. It's like she just barely, got used to sending photos via text. So people like older communities or older folks that don't have the digital skills necessary to be able to deal with an iPad or a laptop, that's very crucial as well. Or non-English speakers, very crucial to be able to support them with the skills to be able to connect and the devices as well. And you can see by some of sort of like the statistics that are written on this slide, 82% of California children, lack high-speed internet access in the state of California, which is huge and actually really, really shameful. And so reliable, affordable broadband, what does that mean? This just is a slide that kind of shows you what it looks like today. 19% of Los Angeles County have no high-speed internet access connection. No high-speed internet access connection. So you can do the math. They're relying mostly on smartphones to be able to connect to whatever services they need to on the internet. And then nearly 40% of rural Black households also have no high-speed internet access. So very stark disparities, especially when you take into consideration the racial component. So we did research. And with some of the fact sheets that we've provided you actually accentuates this research as well. So you can see, like we went onto the Charter Spectrum site to see what promotional pricing they were offering in different communities. And all we did, we used their website, we put in different addresses, and you can see the difference is only like a couple of miles apart. And you can see that they were offering much lower pricing for the same exact plan in more affluent communities or higher income communities than in lower income communities. And we found this is consistent throughout all of Los Angeles County because Charter Spectrum services more than 80% of Los Angeles County, essentially making it a monopoly, right? And on top of the fact that they're unregulated, they have a lot of say-so as to where they develop their infrastructure and who gets connected and at what price and at what speeds even as well. And so SGV snapshot, this is also part of in your handouts, just to give you an idea of some of the surrounding communities, right? In Alhambra, 40% of households lack broadband with speeds of 100 megabits per second download, which is considered the base. That should be the base amount of speeds that you should have to be able to connect without having to have slow internet connections and slow download speeds, right? And so you can see your neighboring communities also experiencing very similar issues as well. And the second pillar is adequate devices. Again, a large majority of us communities rely on smartphones to connect to the internet. A lot of Latinx Californians rely on that as well. And those that are not English speakers as a primary language, Spanish speakers also are very deeply impacted. San Gabriel Valley, which has a high Asian population and immigrant population as well, I could imagine is probably experiencing very similar ratios. And then there's the digital literacy skills and supports. Very important to make sure that people have the skills to be able to connect through all of their devices. 65% of parents give themselves a letter grade of an A or B in terms of tech savviness, and 1 in 5 family surveys don't have email addresses, right? So a very large population that we want to make sure is caught up to where we're at. And we've already kind of covered this, like these are some of the opportunities that are enabled by digital equity, right? And I don't know, I follow the markets as well because we do housing work, and so like the federal government is trying to switch to digital currencies as well. And so your banking, your money, access to your money, being able to send money, all of this is going to be happening digitally. We want to make sure that our communities are being able to participate in the advancements in technology that we're seeing. And as you know, technology is advancing at a very exponential rate, and all of these folks that are currently not connected are going to be left far behind as we advance. So as I mentioned, we joined the Digital Equity Los Angeles Coalition. This is not representative of all the organizations that are participating in this coalition, and this is focused in on LA County, and just ensuring, again, we're urging the county to ensure that people are connected to the internet, have the devices and the literacy to be able to participate fully. And so it's why we came to City Council to speak, to just alert them on the work that we're doing in this realm. And this is just a slide to just kind of show you kind of the work that we've done as a coalition. We participate on different levels. We participate on the local, county, state, and even the federal level, because there's different work that's happening on each one of those sectors. We've been successful in the California Public Utilities Commission is also a commission that regulates the utilities like water, gas, and electricity. And they're also looking into all of this to see how they can regulate the internet service providers. But they had these maps that were drawn from the data that was provided by the internet service providers, and these maps were then going to be their focus areas on where they were going to actually ensure that they build out. And these maps turned out that Rancho Palos Verdes was an impacted area, Malibu was an impacted area, and a whole swath of Los Angeles County communities were left out of those maps. They were not deemed impacted areas. And so we fought the California Public Utilities Commission, and we got them to reverse, take down those maps and to recreate them using different data, not data provided solely by the internet service providers. And we were able to win to get them to actually remap the impacted areas. And right now we're trying to work with like Digital Investment Video Communications Act reform, just to make sure that they're also updating their policies and their ordinances to ensure that everyone gets connected. So a lot of work is being done, and this is part of a 5-year initiative that was funded by the California Community Foundation, and after which we're in like year 3 of the initiative. As I mentioned, we work on all different levels, LA County, federal, California Public Utilities Commission, just because there's a lot of money coming in from the federal government into the states to ensure infrastructure development. And there's a lot of technical terms like middle mile and last mile and all this other stuff. And we're just keeping our eyes on all of it to make sure that when they do start to roll out these programs and funding opportunities, that they're focusing in on the communities that are most impacted. And the work that we're doing at LA County, we got them to actually hire a director for one of their departments that is going to oversee this type of work in digital equity and ensure that LA County is being built out accordingly. And so we also established a statewide alliance that focuses in on policy, and we were able to move forward a couple of policy wins last year. We opposed certain legislation that we think that is going to be negatively impactful on our work and on our communities that we represent, and then we support legislation that we think is going to further the work in digital equity and close the digital divide. And so the landscape that we see right now, there's a ton of money coming in from the federal government, and we just want to make sure that it's being allocated to our communities. Despite the state policy, there are gaps that remain, and in some cases, the implementation of that rollout of funding has been delayed. So we want to make sure that we're continuously pushing so that they get the money out to the communities that are needing it the most. And then we also, we're planning to determine the use of the federal funding as well. Again, a lot of money coming in, just want to make sure that they're using it appropriately and to the people that deserve it. And the regulation of internet service providers is not sufficient, so we want to make sure that they actually strengthen the regulation at the California Public Utilities Commission level. So what we're asking, since we as an organization, we focus in on the San Gabriel Valley, we've been going around to every city council, asking them to write letters of support to the County Board of Supervisors, just basically encouraging them and urging them to continue investigating these discriminatory practices of the internet service providers and to ensure that whatever money comes into our communities is being used for those that are most impacted. Right, again, as an equity lens, we have to lift up those that need to be brought up to the level as everyone else. So that concludes my my presentation. I want to thank you very much for your time and your attention, and happy to answer any questions or clarify anything that you may have. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for that very informative presentation. And of course, I'm very aware of the broadband digital inequity, but not to this level of specificity. So I thank you for educating me personally. And my question is, I know there's a letter. So what are some of the things that, like the average person can do? Do we need to mobilize like groups, protests, right? So what have you seen that's the most effective? And what are some suggestions for action steps?
It's a great question. It's always a question that we have on our minds as well. This, the Digital Equity LA Coalition is started out as a very grass tops, if you're familiar with that term. It's just sort of like the organizational level. We have been receiving funding from the California Community Foundation so that we do more of the grassroots type of organizing, getting folks more involved. So right now, I think and a lot of that hasn't taken place just yet. So the question that you pose is very timely. Right now, we're working on language that the layperson could understand, right? Because digital equity, what's that? And a lot of folks, as we have witnessed with tenants' rights work, is like sometimes they don't realize that it's an issue until you explain to them why it might be an issue. For like a lot of the folks that we come across, it's just their internet bill. That's just what they charge, right? And it's like, and so I have to pay it. Not really realizing all the decisions and the actions that are taking place behind the scenes that actually arrived at that price, all right? Or why is my internet slow? Or why am I getting disconnected? It's like not knowing the machinations and all the things that the internet service providers do in order to make that happen. It's just glitchy. Right? And so I think the first step in getting community involved is education and information, right? And so that's what we're currently working on is to put together information that people can understand, and then how can they get involved. Right now it's mostly at the county level because we want to make sure the money is coming into the county. So it's the County Board of Supervisors who should be responsible for disseminating that out to everyone else like San Gabriel Valley. So I don't know if that answers your question, but because I think we're not quite they're reaching out to the community. But even like, for example, the federal government during the COVID pandemic, they released the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program, which helped give $50 a month towards internet service for low-income people that qualified. That then transitioned into the Affordable Connectivity Program, ACP, which is a limited pot of funds, but now it's, instead of $50 a month, it's $30 a month. And the projections are that those funds are going to end in 2024, right? And so we're trying to at least inform as much of the community members, hey, there's this program out there, you should apply. $30 a month towards your internet bill is something, it's something. And I think it's a one-time $75 towards equipment, like a laptop or an iPad. So informing community of the Affordable Connectivity Program is one of the things that we're trying to get out there as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to limit our questions just in the interest of time, but if we have a couple other commissioners who would like to answer questions, we can do that. And then I'll also say that, thank you also, Mr. Rivera, and point out that his email and phone number are at the bottom of our sheet.
Yes.
And he has been very responsive to my, my emails or my calls, so, but if there is a question.
When I apologize for being late, so thank you again for this presentation. I was able to come in towards the end, and I very much appreciated the content. More so of just a statement in terms of kind of what our commission should kind of bear in mind in terms of, I think the information you provided is excellent, and it makes a strong case for the inequities of access to broadband, right, and the existence of the digital divide. But also in respect to the work that we, I guess, do on this commission, and as a municipality, it's always, I think, our job to kind of remember the fact that not everybody has access in the same ways to the internet. And when we are providing services, we always need to kind of bear in mind how folks are able to access those services, especially if we're asking folks to, not just fill out a form, but provide additional documentation that maybe need to be scanned or maybe electronically signed. And so that can be a huge barrier to participation in programs, and just to kind of keep that in mind.
Absolutely, and even with outreach, right? If you're trying to get the word out, putting a Facebook post or sending out an email may not reach certain populations, right? And so we also have to keep that in mind as well, because sometimes we have to go door to door, and pass these things out.
Mr. Rivera, thank you very much. So you started out, I always thought the HEAR Commission had a lofty goal, which we probably may not ever reach, but you probably have a lot more than what I was thinking about. However, you started out with the individually affected people in the community who go on to make havoc and stuff, and you help them out. How do you find these people, number one? And number two, they could be at homes, they could be at schools, they could literally be everywhere else. And how do you sort of bring them together to help them?
Through community partnerships and organizational partnerships. So right now, because we're a newer organization, we reach out to organizations and see if we can try to serve their membership. And so that's how, or schools, or we've worked with YMCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs, folks that already have an established base of members and community, and then we try to go into those spaces and service them.
Second quick question, and I know I'm limited with time. Now you've branched out from literally human to technology. Now you know that the Biden administration had granted some billions of dollars in 2021, and I'm sure that would help because the states are getting the funds. And so that's a good news. Other than that, so you have on one end the human sort of element, and the other one you're working on technology end. So do you have the resources that you needed to do both?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
You have resources to sort of complement on both sides. That's a major sort of work on one side, and this is like a human touch or family and person. personal
Oh,
work?
absolutely. Well, a lot of our services right now are provided online through Zoom. A lot of our parent education courses are through Zoom. And so that's where kind of we see the connection of the two, or the intersection of the two, because these are the tools that we're using to connect to one another. And so that's where we see the overlap, right? And we don't see them as distinct. We find that a lot of our programs as services are moving online because it's just more convenient for folks. Like for our parent education programs, we don't have to provide a child care, or we don't have to provide other things if it's online versus in person. Yeah, and so yeah, we just find that everything's kind of moving with technology. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Clearly, this is an area that touches all that we are doing. So I thank you, Mr. Rivera, and I would encourage everyone, and Mr. Rivera, if it is okay with you, we will post your Healing and Justice Center contact information and digitalequityla.org link on our HEAR Commission webpage as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are going to, we voted to move the order of our agenda, and we're going to go on to actually agenda item number E, which is 2023 Mental Wellness Expo planning, and I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Brennan.
If I may, we do have one
Sorry.
public comment before we jump into
Yes,
discussion.
and do we have any public comments, Matthew?
Yes, we have a public comment by Emily Wu Trong.
Thank you so much for existing. Because I grew up in the San Gabriel Valley since 1988. So I have been living in the San Gabriel Valley since I was 7 years old. And the San Gabriel Valley is my home. I have been part of NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, Greater Los Angeles County for the last 10 years. I'm a grassroots mental health advocate first and foremost, because all of the children, all of the children of immigrant families are my little brothers and sisters. When we were growing up, parents didn't want to call us mentally retarded if we have invisible disabilities. To this day, I have not gotten a screening as to whether I actually have autism. And being born in Arkansas, I had such a culture shock from there to here. Over there, I was the only Asian kid of black and white students. And from first grade and before that, my years there were perfect. I faced no racism, even though I was the only Asian kid in my class. Now, after I moved over here in '88, well, it was really hard because my parents said, you're not allowed to say goodbye to your friends. That was challenging. And so after moving to the San Gabriel Valley, I saw everyone, all my classmates were Asian. It was very challenging, a very big culture shock. I did not know how to cope. I didn't know how to cope with Asian parents always comparing their kids to each other. And so in the last 10 years, I will say that in all of my mental health advocacy, I have done so much to be a voice for the young immigrant children of immigrant families that have not found their voice. I have developed my voice over the last 10 years. I am a suicide attempt survivor. I want those kids to know that you are immensely precious, priceless. And never in a million years would I ever want any child to end their life here in the San Gabriel Valley, because I want them to not fall through the cracks like I did, like I felt. And I'm so proud that your commission even exists to be able to put on a mental health expo. And if you would love to have me, I would love to be a speaker for your event, because I alone in this last month have done so many events, maybe 4 or 5, and gone to like 3 mental health fairs like in May, and I had an art show the other day. I had a speaking engagement with a room full of Hispanic and African Americans, but very little Asians. We need to change that. And I, you know, I do a lot of artwork. I'm an artist, and this is being displayed at my art show in Culver City with Painted Brain.
I'm sorry, I don't want to
Yes.
cut you off, but we do have a 3-minute
Yes,
limit.
okay, well, thank you so much.
But thank you
and-
so much for presenting yourself and for offering to be a part of our program.
Thank you.
What was your name again? Sorry, I didn't. Emily? Ooh, okay. No, I just wanted to say thank you so much for that. I mean, it's on the same topic, so I guess we can. No, not really. We can't comment. Okay. Sorry. Beyond thank you. Okay, thank you so much.
And what time is this meeting over? Oh, there's no
When we're
se-
done.
When we're done.
Oh, okay, okay.
But hopefully about,
8 o'clock, but
yeah, probably
Go.
not.
but
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Today, the things that have been coming up are just very, I feel like, very relevant and poignant, and I'm just very thankful. On that note, we are going to try to do a bunch of planning today for our Mental Wellness Expo. And so I did want to give each lead a chance to update us on where they are with the different, their tasks, and maybe, you know, if you need any help or if you need input from staff, you know, you can ask now, or you can just make sure to, you know, make an appointment or have some time that you can talk to Matthew or staff about the things that you need for your area. And I guess we'll start with, I don't know, I'm looking at this list. I can start with Chastity because it says volunteer after raffle, and George isn't here, so.
Are there specific questions that you want people to answer?
I think,
Or should we stick to kind of today's discussion?
yeah, so I sent out a list about if you're going to need printed materials or other supplies that you don't already have a list of. You know, I would love you to have a list. But if you need something from staff, I would like you to have that available. And then if you need any volunteers or if you need anything translated. But also if you have like a timeline for your action items and a plan for how those things are going to be executed over the next couple of months. I think some of the areas are more timely than others. I think we should think about marketing or, you know, the programming stuff a little bit more, or maybe the talking about elected officials and stuff more on the early side. But even having a plan for the things that come later would be a good idea.
If I may interject briefly. So in the staff report, I did break down kind of the key things that do need to be confirmed during tonight's meeting and then at the next 2 meetings. That way, we as staff can adequately prepare, and then as well as the whole commission can be on the same page. So if you'd like, we can start there, and then as the areas come up for each commissioner, then it can be addressed at that time.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
yes.
Okay. So the details that were discussed thus far is that the event will be held on Sunday, October 1st, and the time is tentative from 12 to 3. with the components consisting of the community booths, which are the resources and information that will be passed out. So that's in front of the Mission Playhouse, so in the plaza area. Workshops in the Grapevine Room and the Padillo Room from the LA Department of Mental Health and Changing Tides. Activities for kids and adults between the tent area and the back section of the Grapevine lawn. And then demonstrations, two, one of which is confirmed by Benjamin Chan. He's an instructor with the City of San Gabriel, and he teaches Tai Chi. The details are yet to be determined. Staff so far have completed a draft of the flyer, which is included in the packet for your review. It does look completely different from last year, but it does incorporate the same head with gears, which is essentially what we're taking as a logo for the event, and that way the other materials will fall in place with that. The draft webpage design after tonight's meeting, once more details are finalized and 100% confirmed, we'll go ahead and update that and then publish the webpage. I've currently unpublished it, so it doesn't have the thank you or anything right now. Later this week or next week, that'll be published with the final information. The draft layout, which is also included in the packet for your review, and that's the layout specific for our purposes, staff and the commission's purposes. So it shows where the community booths will be located, where the demonstrations and the presentations will be located. Another map can be made, certainly for the public to view, so they know where things are. And then an event timeline is included, so that will be put on an A-frame sign, so it won't be an 8.5 by 11 page. It will look exactly like that, just, I think it's 24 by 36 is the size that it'll be enlarged to. So that's what we have so far. What I do want to confirm is the time. And for the event, the initial time was 12 to 4 for last year. And then there was discussion of moving the time from 12 to 3 to kind of cut it off sooner, since there was a bit of a taper off as far as attendance was concerned. But I believe that there's a goal to have additional presentations. So I wanted to turn it back to the commission to finalize that item, and potentially turn it back to Vice Chair Goto to lead that discussion.
Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, I think I was the one objecting to the 3 p.m. cutoff, and I'm hoping that our outreach and our workshop topics will kind of bring participants more in waves, versus I think last year, it was our first time around, everyone sort of came right at the beginning, and you're very correct that by 3 o'clock there was not much foot traffic, and some of our exhibitors did leave early. But looking at the timeline, I know that we had our major problem last year was that we did not start the kickoff on time. It went way longer than we had anticipated, and basically we were hustling to get to the first workshop, which I don't think started until about 1 o'clock anyway. So for me, and who will be working on the workshops, my thought was to have 2 concurrent sessions from 1 to 2 p.m. in the Padilla room and the Grapevine room. And then to have a short break in between, because we will have to have enough time for the headsets to be returned and then also distributed again. So for the second set of workshops, which will also run concurrently, I was thinking 2:30 to 3:30. So I don't know if everyone is fine with keeping the 12 to 4 timeline. I think it would be fine to have the exhibitors start to break down at 3:30 if they so choose, and if there's not a sufficient crowd to have them. But I don't want to do all this planning and then rush through the activities, because I think that I'm hoping anyways that we'll be able to sustain a more consistent crowd throughout the day.
Just a question. Is it possible to have one workshop from 1 to 2, and then the second workshop from
There's 4 workshops.
They're forward, well, but you're doing 2 concurrently, right? So one time period to be 1 to 2, to have an hour in between where we do either yoga or Tai Chi or something like that, and then do the next workshop from 3 to 4, because the head sites not only need to be collected, but probably need to be sterile cleaned in some kind of way as well. But then we would have time for whatever physical demonstration we're going to have that wouldn't be occurring at the same time as the workshops, so that people could take advantage of those as well. And then to start the entire thing at 12:30, so 12:30 to 4. I just think it starts to get a little bit long when it's 4 hours, and especially if it's 4 hours and we're running late. So as you said, for us to really try to stay on top of it and to start things on time, to make sure that we have coordinated all of the opening activities so that they don't run over, but that we really highlight the workshops, the physical activities, and then the workshops again.
I'm fine with that timeline. My hope is to pre-register people for all of the workshops. Of course, we'll have drop-off and we'll have walk-ins, but I do think that we should continue to start, at least list that we're going to start the event at 12 and not 12:30, because if we say 12:30, then it's really going to start at 12:45, and then we're going to be running into the first workshop again. So that would be my suggestion. But Commissioner Brenhog, you were instrumental in setting the schedule last year. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's on, okay. I think I agree with you, Vice Chair Godo, just because I do think that we can try to get more signups this time, so people will come for the workshops. And I feel like as our second year, we're kind of we might have like more stuff versus, what happened last year. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about that as well. So and also knowing how the opening ceremonies did go last year, just to have a little bit of padding would be helpful on the front end, to not start the workshops right, like within the, just half an hour after the start.
So then the schedule, just to clarify for Matthew, will be 12 to 4,
12 to
the
4.
event. The first workshop is going to be at what time?
1, right?
1 to 2 will be the first 2 workshops,
Okay.
and then 3 to 4 would be the second set of workshops.
Okay. And between 2 and 3, there will be an activity or 2. I don't know how long the activities are, if there's a 2 to 2:30 and a 2:30 to 3.
Yeah, I think we're gonna run into, I don't think that we can do them all at different times. I think we're gonna have to run some during the workshops. And it might be okay if we do, like, maybe we can do 2 yoga sessions and 2 sound baths, or whatever, depending on what signups we get. But I also think, if people want to go to both, they could. And I did want to do maybe a little bit more from the main stage area. So if we did like the lion dance Tai Chi demonstration, we could do that from the main stage. And we could do, not like programming, but maybe some short things from the main stage as well during the day. So it's not just like you're either in the workshop or like around.
I think that's absolutely plausible and realistic to have some overlapping activities, because obviously not everyone is going to be in the workshops. There's, our goal is to have 30 in each, and I think the majority of the people were in the plaza area for most of the time. So I don't think there's any problem. If there's a particular activity that you really want to draw a lot of people to, then maybe that one could be planned for that break in between. But I think it's great to actually have the overlapping activities, because not everybody's going to feel comfortable going to the workshop. Some people are just going to want to be at the exhibition. I think it's great to have something from the main stage that people could just kind of stop and do, especially if it's, something like Tai Chi that is very inclusive and not that hard. I personally last year was really surprised at how many people did the yoga. I didn't think they'd be comfortable doing yoga out in front of everybody, and sure enough, every spot was taken. So you just never know. But I think it's fine to have. I don't think we're going to be able to schedule things so that there aren't overlapping things, and I think that's okay.
So Matthew, in terms of the timeframe of the event, do you just need to know 12 to 4 right now? And the more specific breakdown, you don't need to know?
Correct.
Okay, so it sounds like Commissioner Bernhard, 12 to 4?
12 to 4, yeah.
Okay.
And also, Matthew, if you want to add, we will have a sound bath too, if that's okay. I'm still working on who's going to do those things, but I think we'll talk about a budget today, but I think we'll be able to land within whatever budget we have for.
So we can include sound bath on the fly.
Yeah, we can include sound bath on the fly.
Are we commenting on all aspects of this? I just want to make sure, I didn't want to be out of order, or how are we proceeding with
I think, Matthew,
discussions?
and before Commissioner Khan leaves, if we could get through these items for today, and then we can go back. So the budget, the number of volunteers, decide whether we want a photographer, and the need for pre-registration, which it sounds like Commissioner Godo and, Commissioner Bernhardt and Vice Chair Godo would like. So what kind of platform we're going to need for that?
So we'll jump back to the budget. I've included the 2022 budget, the proposed 2023 budget, just based off of the information that staff has so far, and then the revenue of where all of this is coming from, right? So there's the city funds and the remaining healthy community grant funds, which totals $2,500. And then the City of Hope Healthy Living Grant is the $5,000, but of course that $5,000 is reserved for the live translation service. The flyer printing, should the commission choose to print flyers, copies of the flyers, so hard copies, you'd be looking at about around $400. If you're planning on doing pizza for the volunteers, it wasn't 100 last year, but I think we would likely need to increase that, so it'll be around that price point. Yoga demonstration was 500 last year, it was 200 last year. I allocated 500 just in case they're not willing to do the 200 mark. Tai Chi demonstration, Benjamin Chan won't be getting paid for that. It's an advertisement for his class, and so that there's no fee there. Activity supplies, so that's a placeholder for paper, supplies, anything. I think it was Commissioner Borja that led that last year, so I'm sure that there were items that she gathered outside of that budget, so we could potentially loop that in this year. Staff would just need ample time to place the order for those items. And then the live translation service, which is of course that 5,000 as discussed earlier. So if there's anything above and beyond what's listed here, now would be the time to have that discussion. That way, as each commissioner goes through, that's already decided.
Can you just tell me a little bit about what activity took place last year?
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the activities for, they were kind of mental wellness activities, interactive activities for both adults and kids. So they had coloring pages, different, we had this like blowing paint, like creating like a monster, like an emotional monster, and like, for kids. And then we had puzzles, and but they were very low cost things. I think we still have a bunch of printouts from maybe we don't, I don't know. Okay. But I think they were really great activities. I think the issue last year was the location, because it was in the back and we didn't have signage. And so I think that's something that we're going to try to change this year when we go over the map. But yeah, those were the activities. And then we also had the yoga. We had 1 yoga session and 2 sound bath sessions.
So I had a couple of things that I think that we might need to add to the budget. One, last year, our chair was really great in securing a water donation, but I think we probably need a lot more water than we had. It was we kind of handed it out at our table, but it wasn't available throughout the event. So
Because the water donation, so are we trying to secure enough water for all of the participants? Because the water was really, I thought the focus was for the volunteers.
yeah, I think it was, but once they went out on the table, I think you remember all the participants were coming up to get it. So I think that's a decision we have to make. If we're only going to have it for the volunteers, then we probably need some kind of green room where the food and the water is. But I don't know if you guys have any recommendations for that for other events. If water should just be supplied for the exhibitors and the volunteers and the speakers, I'm fine with that, but we're going to have to secure it in a place because I think participants came along and kind of took them as well.
One of the things that we do in the city of Los Angeles, because I work for the water company, we have a vehicle where we can hook up and provides water because we want to reinforce the fact that tap water is clean water. And so I can reach out to any of the utility providers and see if they have that. Some of them will actually even bottle tap water and to kind of like for, and brand it as the water utilities, branding. So I can reach out to the water utilities and see if they have any options for that, and maybe they can make that donation.
That's who donated it last year, was the water district board or
Metropolitan Water?
San Gabriel Valley Water Board.
Oh, the Upper San Gabriel Valley Municipal District? I know who they are. Got it. I can contact them.
And then the other thing I wanted to mention was, I know the live translation is the grant money, but we're also going to need some written translation, and I don't know how that charge was handled last year, but even in the signage that you have provided us, I would hope that we could provide maybe on the same sign. I don't think it has to be separate, but the activities maybe could be also in Mandarin and Spanish, and workshops could also be in Mandarin and Spanish. So is there a charge for that, and can you kind of give us a little more information about how much that might cost?
So for the signage, like the door signs and things like that, that won't cost anything. We can use Google Translate and then just have staff verify, assuming that if we're doing it in Chinese and Spanish, we can certainly handle that in-house. If it's any language beyond that, we would need to outsource that. As far as marketing materials, I think the initial discussion was the flyer would be on English in the back, and then similar to how we did the Playday flyer, where it's the paragraph summaries in each of the languages. So it's essentially $100 per language is what it came out to for a couple of our other projects with the company that we're working with currently. So if it's Spanish, Chinese, and Vietnamese, then we'd be looking at about $300 for that translation service.
Okay, I think we should definitely add that to the budget, because in addition to the materials that we had last year, one of the things that we talked about in the debrief was having like a photo release statement at the front of the event, or at both in the back and in the front. And I think that would have to be translated into multiple languages, and I kind of cribbed some language off other events. But it's essentially a release that allows us to use any photographs or video that is taken at the event. We tried to be careful not to photograph people's faces, but this time around we will have to put together a grant report, and it would be really helpful if we are able to use any of the photos that are taken.
Agreed. That was on my list of things as well.
Also, I gotta have a comment on the yoga demonstration. So I understand that last year was $200, and I'm looking at it. So we have, is it for 1 hour? Or,
Correct.
yeah, 1 hour. So I'm not sure we need to, I understand, of course, there's inflation, right, from last year, but I don't know if 500, I don't know if 1 hour warrants 500. That's, I understand, of course, we want, for inflation, but is there, I don't know the market, does anyone do yoga? Is that normal, $500 for 1 hour?
Well, I think Matthew was trying to give the budget for, I think, most of the activities. Maybe it was just for the yoga demonstration, but maybe, last year we did 600 total for the interactive, performances, activities, stuff like that. So I think we probably can do sound bath and yoga for the 500. That seems reasonable for me from my perspective, but I don't know, do you feel like that's an unreasonable amount of money for that?
All right, no, if it's for yoga and sound bath aerial performance, then that's different, but I think it's only for the yoga.
Yeah, I think it was just because Matthew didn't know what we were doing this year, maybe. Is
I don't know, sorry if I'm
Yeah.
misunderstanding.
So I wasn't sure if it was going to be multiple yoga demonstrations, so I just put that aside just in case, and the discussion could be had.
So yeah, if it's yoga and the sound bath aerial performance, then I would just, that's great.
So one other thing that, that is in my report, but we're gonna need to have post-workshop surveys for the grant that we got, and so that will need to be translated as well. And I drafted something, it's a really quick survey, and we're hoping like people can tick off, it's really just a tick off the answer kind of situation, but we will need those translated into Mandarin and Spanish as well. So I can work offline with you on all the things that for the workshops might need to be translated, but I want to make sure that I'm not imposing on the budget.
And does the grant dictate how many languages? Is it just the Chinese and Spanish, or does it need
That's
to be-
it, that's
Okay.
it. I think because we're only providing those live translations, that's pretty much going to be who
Okay.
is attending.
I have a quick question about the translation, live translation. What does that entail?
It's a translation service will have two translators at each of the workshops, two in Spanish and two in Mandarin, and they will have headsets. So people who need the translation, it'll be a simultaneous, so it's not we're stopping the presentation and then doing it in Spanish and then doing it in Mandarin. It's going to be ongoing. Yeah.
Are there any other areas that the commission member thinks monies should be allocated to before we?
We're probably going to need marketing materials again, or like the banners, if we're thinking about promotional banners.
Yeah, so we have the banners from last year that we can change the date if the commission's comfortable with doing that. And then we still have the stage banner. In fact, it's in my office right now. So I know we have it. It doesn't exactly match the flyer, but I think it's generic enough to where it will still translate well.
Is there also some place that we acknowledge City of Hope's Healthy Living grant that they've donated or that they've awarded us a grant? I just want to make sure that we, give a nod to them.
We have a big giant check that I picked up that we can put on the stage.
There you go. I like
So I think that should do
Giant
it.
checks are wonderful.
Yes.
Yes.
Quick questions, because I've been working with Brandon Ty. We had a meeting today, and he's really wanting, the hero that saved the ballroom dance from the gunman, and he would, he's been really he started this hero fund, and that fund's mission is to destigmatize mental health, especially among the youth. And so I don't know if we're interested in, because that could be a draw, like a headliner, and because he's very well known in the entire country. So I don't know if that's something we would, if we could get him, if that's something we want to invite, extend the invitation.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about if we're gonna do some programming from the main stage. I mean, I think we can do a few conversations or question and answer things with a couple of people, because so many people were out in the plaza area last time and didn't go to the workshops. It gets a little bit more, conversation out there about, the destigmatization of mental illness. And I was thinking about maybe a quick Q&A with a therapist or something like that, like asking them just some straight questions that people would, normally bring up. Or, I also had the idea of possibly talking with the Met team, if that's something that we would be open to as well. But this maybe also could fit in with it if it's something that, I don't know what other people think on this commission.
Maybe I would ask our Cito and Ms. Rios, if they think that that might be a draw for youth to come and either meet him or hear about his story, or a brief interview, as Commissioner Bernal said, is on the main stage with him.
So to clarify, would these sessions be one-on-one or in front of like a lot of people?
And it wouldn't be a therapy session. I think it would be more of a, either ask the therapist, or this is kind of an example of a therapy, or this is kind of what would be discussed in a therapy session. We wouldn't put anyone out there to have their therapy in front of a crowd. But right now, in addition to asking about the main stage, those types of things, specifically what Commissioner Chan brought up in terms of, Brandon.
Brandon Tsai.
I think it would be a good idea. We just need to make sure, like, it would be best to know what they're going to be saying beforehand, because, like Ms. Nunez said, I don't want to put anybody in an uncomfortable situation, because part of, like, having a therapy session is, like, really getting in-depth and being able to share everything you want, not if the whole world's watching. And I think as long as, like, we tread carefully along the lines of, like, what's comfortable, what's not, we should be fine. And I think it's a good idea.
Oh, yeah. It was more just general questions about why do people come to therapy? You know, maybe them answering the question about what questions do people normally ask you. So it's not like getting deep into people's personal experiences, but more like, you know, if you go to a therapist, this is what you can expect. This is why you may want to do that. And, you know, just more generally. But also with Brandon Tsai, he's talking about, you know, was a police officer, or was it just the person that, I don't even know the story. He was just in the ballroom.
The
He was
gunman.
working the front desk. Okay.
Yeah, the gunman entered the ballroom with a gun, and he took the gun from the gunman and saved, I don't know how many lives. All the people who were there in that ballroom. I don't know. We don't know how many he would have died, because that gun had the capacity was 30 bullets.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I actually very much like that idea of having programming from the main stage. And you don't necessarily have to have just one person. You can even have two people. And I think having someone who is also kind of well-known within our community, right, associated with this event, as well as a mental health professional who can kind of talk to the, you know, the clinical side of this, I think would be really helpful. And I don't know, remind me, Matthew, if we do, like, do we do press releases on this? Okay, so that would be something nice to place into a press release. Like you said, that would be a great draw, and I suspect we would probably get some media coverage because of it, which would help further, I think, our, you know, our reach, you know, around this subject.
We'll have Ms. Rios and then Commissioner Khan.
Hi, I would like to suggest an idea. Since I guess talking about mental health, it can be quite taboo for some people, and especially with older generations or cultures that may have different points of views. Maybe if, I don't know, if kids as youth want to ask a question but can't but feel uncomfortable because of their parent or guardian is there, I was maybe suggesting like have a little, I guess, little box with people can answer, and once like they have the Q&A, they can grab from boxes and read, or they could do it like a Google form where people can do online and ask questions without being, I guess, outed because someone is there, or they just simply feel uncomfortable.
I was going to say, I really like that idea, and maybe with the registration form, there can be a place where folks can say, I have questions like that I'd like for the main stage to consider or maybe take into consideration. They don't have to ask all of them or, you know, bring them all up, but it might be a good opportunity to kind of field questions so that content can be established ahead of time. And as you said, I think it's really important that everybody kind of, that there be a run through on stuff like this so that everybody's understands kind of like what the flow is so you can keep the time.
I think I would recommend expanding on this and having at least 3-4 people, or 4, maybe more than that. At least 4 probably would be a good idea, just to have cover different topics, and including a youth program. Youth address might not be a bad idea because you have a lot of time there.
Well, actually, I don't want to forget that we also have to have the raffle announcements throughout the day, and then last year we also announced when the workshops were starting. So I wouldn't want to tax the main stage, and I will also suggest that someone is going to have to take point on producing what's going on up there. So someone's going to have to be in charge of the timeline and when everybody needs to come on, and it's logistically a lot. So I think probably, yep.
Right.
Any talk probably would, no more than 2 to 3 minutes would probably be
Oh, no, I think there will be a little bit longer, but yeah, I think we should keep it to less than three or less. But I can take point on trying to, draft up the run and, the timings of it. And if people have specific ideas, you can email me those ideas that you have. So yeah, Eric, you can just email me, and then if you want to reach out to him, then that would work out too.
Right, and related to this, which is, is the idea of the schedule, which connects to because if we're inviting elected officials, I know that I was just at a fundraiser, and whenever you give elected officials a mic, you tell them 1 minute,
Yeah.
and it's never 1 minute. So, we could do something like, I'm just thinking out loud, like, for example, if it's, like, I was at one event where, many elected officials were there. So what we did was, like, it was like, for example, Judy Chu, she spoke for 2 minutes, but then we at least acknowledge verbally, this is the mayor of San Gabriel, mayor of Monterey Park, but, only allow one, whoever that is, and it could be the mayor of San Gabriel, right? Have one speaker, or maybe 2 in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And like, so that's my thought. I don't know what.
Totally. We would love to do it that way. You want to answer that, Matthew?
So when we send out the invitations this year, it'll just be clear that there's no speaking opportunity available, but this is the welcome time, and they're welcome to be present for that. But we will have the mayor that speaks, and then the mayor would bring up council, as well as any other dignitaries that are present, and then acknowledge them at that time. And then, of course, the chairperson or whoever else from the commission that wanted to speak at that time, that would be that.
So are we bringing them all up on stage? Because that's what becomes very awkward in terms of not providing the microphone. So what Commissioner Chan is saying is acknowledging people where they are as opposed to bringing everyone up on stage, because then if they're on stage, there's an expectation to be able to just say a few words. And that's how we got off schedule.
So I did, at that event, yes, I think if we let them know in advance that, for example, if we're only going to give, our mayor, Congresswoman, and Hilda Solis, because, those are like very hard to get. So if you want like that, that's it, right? And everybody else, because I think everybody want the photo, usually they want the photo out, but if you let them know, there will be no speaking opportunity except 1, 2, 3, for example, and then, but we will acknowledge you, and there will be a group photo op, because I know politicians, they care about that photo op. But if we let them know that in advance what the expectations are, I think we can avoid the situation where they go on stage and have an expectation to speak, but like we already laid out that expectation. That's my thought.
Okay, that's great. I did want to bring us back to the budget, and just wondering, do you think we are going to need more budget for promotional materials? Do you want to?
I'm trusting the number that Matthew gave. I think 400 sounds very reasonable for flyers, and it sounds as though all of the other printed items, banners and stuff, are already, they were produced last year, and they're in good condition. So I don't think that we need any other items, at least for marketing purposes.
Right, and then while we're here, since Emily came, I don't know I know that's kind of like we just, that was in the item, so I don't know what, is that appropriate to discuss? I don't know, to discuss, or I don't know what, is that for the next meeting? For example, Emily came to kind of wanting to be a speaker at the event, so I don't know if that's the next time.
So we'll leave that to Commissioner Vice Chair Goto, and why don't we talk about that?
Yeah.
Not out in this meeting.
Sounds
What,
good, thank you.
one thing I wanted to bring up for the marketing, I know we have the flyers, but we talked last year at the debrief about having the map and the schedule. Is that part of anything on this budget, or is there a cost to that to make those posters?
So we would just print those in-house, so there wouldn't be any cost associated.
And do we have like easels and things that the city already has? Okay, great.
No, sorry. How many canopies do you have?
I don't have the exact number, but if you've ever been to the Lunar New Year Festival, all of those canopies we purchased from that company, so enough to fill Lunar New Year, so definitely
okay.
enough for this event.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Commissioner Bernhock, can we do the number of volunteer, and Commissioner Khan, I don't know if you have a specific question for him or a report from him before he needs to leave. Okay, that's okay, he's going to stay with us.
Oh, okay. I did want to say, with Jorge Rivera, I was interested in reaching out to that group as well to be an exhibitor. So if that's something that we can add, I'm going to just send that. Okay. You're okay with reaching out to them? I mean, I want to reach out to him anyway, because I really love the purpose of their group, and but I also think that they would be a great addition.
Well, we only have 12 here listed, so we potentially have 3 more slots, right?
Okay, and I do have, I'm looking for a couple other ones, and that's why I wanted to talk to Emily too, because she works with NAMI, and I have had a really hard time getting in touch with NAMI. So if I can get your contact information after, okay, I would love it. So so then there are I'm waiting for to hear back from a couple places, but are you guys sending it out like in July? What is the timeline for that?
So can I bring us back to this one before we go to July? Just so, number of volunteers, I'm just going to take this one because it's mine. I spoke with Jackie Borja, and she had about 20 students. So once I kind of pinpoint exactly what areas we will need volunteers, so I will say for the next meeting, I will come with a list of areas that I've identified will need volunteers and my suggested number, and then we can do that next time. But we had about 20 students last time, and then we had maybe 5 or 6 adult volunteers that were just our family members and that kind of thing. So for the photographer, Commissioner Brenhonk, do we need a paid photographer? I think we were able to gather a lot of pictures just on our own last time.
I would suggest that if we can get a photographer, even if it's a volunteer photographer, that we have someone who's designated, because I think we got a lot of pictures of certain things, but not of the entire day. And as a reminder, we will have to do a presentation and a poster for our grant, so I think it would be really helpful to have somebody. If we don't have it in the budget, maybe there's a volunteer who is good with taking pictures.
So I would ask our youth ambassadors, maybe even. I mean, you can do a lot now with an iPhone, as long as we have someone who is designated and instructed to circulate and the kind of pictures that we want, whether it's a student or it's an adult. I am hoping we don't have to budget for a photographer because it's expensive. But yes, it is important that we get those pictures.
And just as a note, you'd be looking somewhere around $300 for a photographer for the entire event. But you can also shorten that if you just want them to come at a particular time, just as a reference for your discussion.
We have a volunteer at our mosque. If we commit to him, because we need about 4 hours. So 4 hours, we need to pay at least some to them, to the gentleman. So $150 to $200 may be appropriate if there is a budget for it. But I can ask.
I would also be open in taking photos, and I think there is one student I know that is interested in photography, although I don't know if he'll come to the event. So I can certainly reach out and ask if you guys like.
That would be great.
Yeah, that would be great. And I think I can maybe work with Vice Chair Goto, to identify like the shots. Like we should have a shot list that we give the photographer so that they know exactly what shots we're looking for. And then when they're done, right?
So at this point, do we need to put a dollar amount in the budget just in case, or are we hoping to get this as a volunteer position?
So I don't know how accurate, so according to this budget, we have the $1,200 difference is that we have some extra money?
Correct.
So, but maybe, I mean, I think because we did get a $5,000 grant, it might be worth, investing in because, right? Because it's like, okay, let's say the volunteer didn't do their job. What are we going to say to the volunteer? You volunteered, right? And so,
Okay, so how much of a budget do we want? Commissioner Khan just suggested maybe $200. If are we now saying that we want somebody who is more of a professional photographer? If we had a volunteer who said I would do it, or not a volunteer, but if we had someone who would have volunteered, are we now going to pay them? What are we going to do with this?
I feel comfortable if our youth ambassador has some confidence with their person, and as always, I know we all will also be taking pictures, but we do need one designated person who will have the shot list, as Commissioner Chavez Morris said, because we want to make sure that we get the shots that we need. So maybe put a placeholder. Could we put like a $200 placeholder? And, because I think Commissioner Khan's volunteer would do it for less than, market value.
I mean, he is a professional photographer. He's got all kinds of umbrellas and lenses and stuff like that. So you'll get a quality shot if you were get him.
So we have a $200 placeholder for now, and Aaron, that will not preclude you from taking pictures, but Commissioner Khan, if you could reach out and see if he is available on that day and bring it back on the next one. And then Commissioner Brenhoff for the last thing for registration, or if that will be Vice Chair Goto.
Yeah, I'm working on trying to put together an Eventbrite site for the registration. And my hope is that I'm going to be able to ask on that site whether or not people would like to have or need translation. I haven't quite gotten through the form yet, but I'd like to kind of ballpark it because we will have a limited number of headsets. I don't think that will at all preclude us from having walk-ins, but I did want to ask what the room capacity is. In my mind, I'd like to have 30 people at the workshop, which probably means registering 50 people because people aren't going to show up. But what are your thoughts for the room capacity?
So I'll jump back to the Eventbrite. So we do have an account through the city, so if you want us to set that up for you, just let us know.
Okay, great.
If you want one set up for each individual, that's fine. It sounds like that you'll need that for the grant, right?
Well, it's mostly
Fees
just,
for-
to
Okay.
make sure that we utilize the service and
Sure.
that enough people show up.
Okay, that sounds good. As far as sorry, what was this? Your actual question?
The room capacity.
Room capacity. So the Padilla room has a max capacity of 98 dining, 210 theater style. So the Grapevine room's just under that, so that won't be an issue.
Perfect, thank you.
And again, I've been rushing people all night, and I apologize, but I just want us to pay attention to our time. We do have one other kind of major topic that we need to at least address in some small way. So are there other areas that we definitely need to discuss tonight?
Okay, I just wanted to maybe touch back on the flyer. Just on the picture of the yoga person, maybe like there might be a better photo for it. Yeah, I don't know if like.
I agree. I feel like the image is not representative of really the people I see at this event, either in terms of ethnicity, in terms of age, in terms of body habit. To me is a little intimidating. I'm not planning to be there in a yoga pose all day, and so I would like to see something that kind of is a little more inviting to everyone and not so intimidating as in terms of what is going to happen at the event. So maybe even just a crowd of people, I'm not sure, but Commissioner Brenha has, I think, a picture in her mind that is consistent with what we all have also.
Yeah, I would even maybe encourage us to maybe look at a couple of photos, like, and if we need to buy stock photos in order to do this, that would be great. I know that City of LA, we have a stock photo of senior citizen. It's related to our turf replacement program, but our senior citizen doing yoga in the backyard. And so if we can maybe do a couple of photos of diverse ethnicities and ages, that would probably be really helpful so that it seems more accessible.
Sorry, on the, I totally agree, 100% with your sentiment. Yeah, the picture, I thought it was, like you said, you put it well, that it was intimidating, and it's like, you had to be cut and all that. So it's like, wow, I'm not that. I'll never be that. So.
I was never that, even when I was 20.
All right, and then the other topic, which related to the budget, sorry, that is that I've been, actually, with the Resiliency Center, there's funding for like helping the community heal for, when I talked to, in response to the tragedy. So I know that that's something there too. And maybe we can use that for like guest speakers or other things, but just, I don't know what, I think we have enough, or so maybe we don't need it, but that's also something we can possibly look at, because there is that fund to help the community heal.
I mean, I think if we don't have any other specific ideas on what we would use it for, I think right now we're okay with the budget that we have. If we had bigger things that, like, certain speakers would be like a higher draw or something.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. Like, for example, if we've invited a Brandon Ty or Emily or whoever else, right? That I don't know if that's because we don't have like a guest speaker. I don't know if I don't like even like the person you're talking about, the therapist. Are we paying that person, or like maybe we like a speaker's fee? I don't know. Is that because I didn't see that in the.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't planning to, but I think, is that something that is usually done for speakers?
So I didn't get the feeling that you were going to make the main stage a main area of speaking. We don't want to compete with Changing Tides. I mean, we have a whole program of speakers, but the main stage is going to be kind of little short, ask the therapist, meet Brendan side, kind of, 10-minute things just to entertain people or provide them with education while they're in the area. But I didn't feel like we were now looking for somebody for the main stage kind of as a speaker.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that.
Yeah,
We are trying to get people to the workshops.
Yeah.
Is that what Vicki wanted to say?
Well, I was just going to say, maybe I can just go over what the topics are going to be at the workshop. So as I've mentioned before, Changing Tides and QPR Institute will be doing a suicide prevention training. The LA County Department of Mental Health will be doing awareness, treatment, and recovery from depression, and their grief, loss, and resilience workshops. The fourth workshop, I'm trying to find someone who will speak on combating social isolation, but in the event that I am not able to, I have reached out to LA County Department of Public Health or Mental Health to also present their emotional well-being and stress workshop. So the workshops are pretty well set, and my plan is to have short descriptions of each of the workshops to go on the pre-registration and maybe with the press release to try and push that out. I'm hoping to have that, done sooner rather than later before the next meeting so that we can make the pre-registration site go live and start pushing it, because I really hope that that will be sort of one of the main draws of coming to the event. So 3 of them are definitely locked. 1 is still in play, but will be set by the next meeting.
Now, I have a quick question about that. So are all these workshops all held in English and then they'll be translated into another language?
They'll be translated simultaneously in Mandarin and Spanish.
Right, because what do you think of, since the fourth one is open, what do you think about having like a workshop that's done in Chinese? And then, you know, because translation is still, I mean, it's,
The translators are professional translators.
right, no, I mean, but it's even the same thing, like, we have 3 English ones and 1, for example, Chinese speaking, which I can find, like, 1 Chinese speaking, like, workshop in Chinese, so that way it's like, again, we don't have to, but I'm just,
No, I mean, the LA County Department of Mental Health did 3 separate workshops, one in English, one in Spanish, and one in Mandarin last year. So we can ask them if they want to do, but I will have to go back to the spot-on translator and make service and find out if that would be problematic for them. It might bring the cost down, I don't know. The Mandarin translators are expensive. But I want to make sure that there's enough community members who are going to be filling that, and that we're not just doing a presentation in Mandarin and only 2 people are there, and then everybody else is having to go through a translator. So we can talk offline. I don't want to take up time here, but we can talk offline, and maybe you can advise me as to which topic you think might be appropriate for that.
Commissioner Brittenhoff, do you have, or Matthew, is there anything else that we need to absolutely cover tonight?
No, so nothing that needs to be covered on my end tonight. The only reminder would be July 17th. Vice Chair Goto, you're already on top of it, so I appreciate it. Just to have everything finalized, and we'll get that Eventbrite and pushed out by that meeting so then everyone can take a look at it. Finalize the additional demonstration provider, Commissioner Brenha, and then finalize outreach and securing volunteers. So between Chair Jennings and, Chair Jennings. And then by September 19th, and you'll notice both of those dates are prior to the commission meeting. That way I can include it in the agenda packet. So it is important that those deadlines are met, so in that way that it can be part of the discussion. So September 19th, the securing opportunity drawing items, which is, I believe, Commissioner Herrera, and then outreach to local organizations to inform them of the event, which I believe is Commissioner Chavez-Morris. And so we'll have everything finalized well before then to send out your way as well. Or it may have also been Commissioner Chen.
I have a couple other things to maybe add to that timeline. Just when are we sending out the invitations to exhibitors, or deciding on the exhibitors and then sending those out?
We already sent the invitations. We have.
Oh, you did?
Invitations. Yeah, work is in progress.
Okay, great.
Once I have more, then I'll update all of them.
Awesome. And then also for Commissioner Chavez-Morris about sending invitations to the elected officials, just a timeline for your plan on that.
So I know that we had talked about it. I think you had a draft already put together, right? I think the last time we had talked, it was, I don't see it in here, this packet though. Is it in there?
Correct, it's not in this packet.
But I know that we had discussed it, and it was very much similar to what you said. I think that it was not inviting people to come up to speak, but just letting them know about it. And I think we even talked about including the flyer with it, so that they had some type of, and possibly even sending like a digital version of the flyer so that they could, because we were asking them to promote it within their own network of social media and newsletters.
So in August, that will get sent out from city staff. But Commissioner Chavez-Morris has already put together who that list would look like. So now it's just pushing it out, and then we did get the draft of the previous press release, so I'll update that and then send that to you for review before we send it back to the PIO.
Sounds great. One more thing I wanted to ask was about last year, one of the issues was that when we made announcements from the main stage, we couldn't hear it anywhere else in the Grapevine Arbor Park. And I'm wondering, is that something that would be on the budget if we wanted some speaker system or something that could reach other areas so that people could hear announcements?
We can certainly look into it. It would be called a point-to-point system, which is what we do for the large special events in the Mission District where there's the street closure. Typically, we order 2 or 3 point-to-point speakers in addition to what the Playhouse already offers. Typically, we have a sound tech that's out as well. So that's about a $980 fee on top of the Playhouse technicians. So I wouldn't recommend that takes place because we would need to pull additional staff on top of the actual rental cost. The rental cost would be substantially less, but there is an additional staffing cost that goes along with that.
Okay. Yeah, I think we'll think about that. And then my last question was about the map. I did have some thoughts about it, but I don't know if we wanted to go over that today because I don't think we need to have it finalized yet. So maybe we can just bring that up. Well, I'm not going to be at the next meeting, but or no, you know what? I can talk to Matthew about it, and then you can draft up another plan, and you guys can discuss it at the next meeting. That's probably okay, right?
Is there anything that you needed people's input on?
I just wanted to do the interactive activities in the front. You know, that grassy area to the right of it would be to the right of the main stage, just so that it was a little bit more accessible. And we were thinking about doing the yoga and sound bath in the back, in the white tent, because we're not going to be doing the third workshop.
I don't think we have the tent on the map.
It's this one. Oh, that's it? Yeah.
It's the white blob,
the white
the
one.
top right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Can you repeat? It was the demonstration at the tent area?
Well, I guess they're not really demonstration. Yeah, they're kind of demonstrations, I guess. They're yoga class or sound bath.
You wanted to do it where these exhibitor booths are
I
currently?
wanted to do it in the tent, those two.
Oh, uh-huh.
And then over here, I wanted to put the interactive activities, which were over here. These round tables,
Oh,
put them over here.
well, then that's going to cut out the exhibitors.
I think the exhibitors can shift because some of them were even around here last year and here. So they don't have to be in that grassy area.
So the intention, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Khan, in moving the booths to the lawn area was to eliminate that kind of awkward cut
Okay.
right in front of the stage.
Yeah.
And I'll defer to Commissioner Khan if you have a thought on that.
Well, it's still in the working stages, but we would like to cover that area, the grass area, with the booths, at least
Okay.
2 or 2 booths.
Okay. I just would like people to get to the interactive activities because last year it felt like very few people went back there because I think part of it was we didn't have a map and the signage wasn't great. But I think also it's more centralized. If like, okay, the kids are like doing activities over here, you know, it is in the same area as the fair or the booths. You know, it feels, okay,
Yeah, and I totally know what you mean. Is there, I don't know if there's an opportunity, and correct me if I'm wrong, but did I see somewhere on here that we're going to create like a mental health passport, like where they have to go from booth to booth, right? Okay. So I don't know if it's possible, but can we pepper the activities in between the booths? Is that possible? Okay. Okay.
I think
We have a specific plan to use the space, and we would be doing it for all 4 hours. Then we could probably situate the booth somewhere else, but otherwise, we want to cover that area just so it's busy.
I mean, the activities are being done the entire time. It's where they can come and do the coloring pages, the art, it's not like a demonstration. It's like people, like the kids are doing stuff and the adults too. They can like, you know, do breathing exercises or do like things that are interactive at like tables though.
The alternative is the community booths were set to stop at the olive tree, that large tree to the left of the Mission Playhouse. So you could utilize that back space because it's not as usable for an info booth, but if you're wanting just to set up like round tables back there, you could utilize that and still have the information booths in that front area to where there's less conflict.
Over on this side or on this side? That side.
So behind that tree, in like the hallway?
It wouldn't be in the hallway, it would still be the grassy area. So it's essentially like the back quarter of that lawn. I would need to go out and measure everything, and then I can get back to you at the next meeting to see what's feasible.
And Commissioner Brenhog, I know it was a little sunny. Would you want to tent that area or to have some pop-ups over there for those as well, since we have a lot of pop-ups now?
Yeah, I would have pop-ups over the activities as well. So I think we can pepper them, because even with this many booths in the grassy area, I think it's possible to fit either like some in front of, some behind the tree in that area. I don't think it's going to be too much.
So can I make a suggestion? Just, I would love to have visuals on the screen. So for the next meeting, maybe we can take some pictures of the area and be able to show people what it would look like, and we'll make a final decision. The other thing, Commissioner Brenha, I don't know if this is okay with you to ask people if you want it for the next meeting or for the August meeting. Again, I think we need some PowerPoints at this point. So if Commissioner Khan, if you could provide a list of our vendors or our exhibitors for whichever meeting Commissioner Brenha wants, either July or August, that we're going to make a PowerPoint out of. If we, we'll have our workshops on a PowerPoint. We need to ask Commissioner Herrera to provide us with, or we need to provide him with the number of raffle items and who he's planning to contact. I will have the areas for volunteers and the number of volunteers on a slide. And Commissioner Chavez Morris, if you could have the list of the dignitaries, thank you, that we would like to invite, and any information we have in terms of if they've RSVP'd by the July or August meeting. Where would you like it, Commissioner Brenha? So we don't have to necessarily know who's coming, but who's going to be invited, just so we can start to kind of put it all on paper. And for me, it would be easier to be able to see it on the screen. And for anybody else out in the audience who might be listening can see it as well.
I mean, I would like it to be done as sooner than later, but I am not going to be here at the July meeting, and won't be able to view it until the first week of August. So, I mean, I can, watch the discussion and then send, whatever after that. But I will definitely be here for the August meeting.
I would vote that it be at the July meeting, because we essentially have 2 meetings left. September should be a complete run-through, and everything should be done by then. So I would suggest that July be the meeting that we really have everything from everyone on their plan of action, because any kind of adjustments will be made for August, and then September should just be a complete walkthrough.
So please have your information ready. Send it to Matthew by the Friday before, in a manner that he can either copy and paste it onto a PowerPoint or something like that. It doesn't have to be, huge details, but just enough so that we know what everyone is doing and where you are in your project.
Or July 17th.
For July 7th.
Yeah, not the Friday before, because the agenda will already have gone out.
So this doesn't have to be, the PowerPoint slides don't need to be part of the agenda, do they?
It doesn't. If you're wanting something in the agenda packet typed out, I'll need it by like the Tuesday, Wednesday prior. But if it's just a PowerPoint, correct it.
Yeah, so you can say whether you want it in the agenda. I just want it at least available for the meeting. So I don't,
Yeah,
if you can get it to Matthew beforehand, great, but if not, that would be the cutoff so that he can create a PowerPoint if needed.
We would need that by the Wednesday or Thursday prior. That the Friday won't be enough time.
Okay, so midweek of the week before our meeting, whatever that date is, we'll come up with it.
If you aim for the 17th, that is good.
Perfect, okay. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Brunhart, for all of that organization. And please pay attention to Commissioner Brunhart's emails that come through Matthew with, whatever prompts or information we need. So we're going to go on to item number We'll go back to discussion of the approved 2023 annual work plan. The commission will review and discuss the 2023 approved annual work plan. Matthew, do we have any public comments on this?
We do not.
Thank you. Is there anything that anyone has about our overall 2023 work plan that you want to bring out for tonight? Okay. So we'll go on then to a discussion of the All Are Welcome campaign. The commission will review and update our All Are Welcome campaign for the city of San Gabriel. Matthew is going to present a staff report. Do we have any public comments on this area?
We do not.
Thank you. So Matthew, if you could provide that.
Of course. So at the last commission meeting, we brought forward a draft plan, and that was put together in partnership with Commissioner Chavez Morris and Commissioner Chen and Vice Chair Godo. Staff took together all of the feedback and put together what we're hoping is a somewhat final plan moving forward. There are some pending items that will need to be finalized. Once the commission approves it, it will go to city council for full adoption and approval or revision or sending it back to the commission. In brief, the process for going through that would be submitting the online form, which has been updated. So in the packet, you'll see on page 4, there is the updated online registration portal, which would essentially have the logo that they'd be, or logo or symbol that they'd be receiving in the mail to post on the front of their window or their cubicle, wherever it's being posted, and all of the information that would be collected. So I couldn't screenshot the screen all at one time, so it's broken up into 2, but essentially that's what we would be collecting. If there's any changes to that, at the end of the presentation would be a good time to mention those, and that way we can make the edit. I'll read them off because they are hard to read. The first one is company name if applicable, first name, last name, position or title within the company, address, city, state, zip code, email address, phone number, and then to please share how your organization plans to create a welcoming environment and or how your organization directly contributes to the community of people. And then the second to last one is, are you an LGBTQ plus led or owned organization, with the notation that your answer does not dictate your ability to participate in this program. And then the final one is just as that did not change from the last one, which is the symbol will be delivered directly to your place of business. Please allow 2 to 3 weeks for it to arrive. So if there's any additional items, yes.
Thank you so much for putting this together. I'm so excited for this, and I'm just so grateful that you've, just forged ahead on all of this. I think the only thing I would say would be a couple of things on the explanation kind of like of the process. For number 2, when you say when staff receives a form, a sticker will be emailed out. If it's at all possible for us to also send them digital material. So if they want to post it on their social media page, they can do that, or on their website. And then lastly, under, please share how your organization plans to create a welcoming environment. I would just perhaps put a few examples, like hair salon providing gender affirming haircuts, just so that they kind of get the gist of what we're asking for.
It looks great. Thank you so much. Do we want to put any kind of verbiage on if it's an LGBTQ-owned organization that we are going to list them were we going to list them in a resource guide as?
So the city wouldn't be able to directly promote them through like a list or anything, but it could definitely be something that if the commission decided that there was a bulky list of groups that submitted them that are LGBTQ-owned businesses, then we can push that back to the chamber to represent them in some way in their website or newsletter or something like that.
Okay, so we could notify them before that would happen. Okay, great.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of maybe like part 2, perhaps, and we can collect this information and then maybe talk with the chamber in the future about how we can elevate these businesses.
I just don't want any businesses to be surprised that they're listed there. But yeah, great, thank you.
Just some additional notations. We've revised the drafted web page. We've also changed the name to what the commission decided on, which was the All Are Welcome program. I changed it from campaign to program just so that it doesn't seem like it's an agenda pushing forward rather than a program, which is to provide resources and outreach and notification to the public. So that's been changed, and then the addition of the logo has been added to the web page. And then there's the subpage under the All Are Welcome campaign page, which has some of the resources that were mentioned. That isn't something that needs to be decided at the meeting tonight, and it can certainly be a live page to where, as more resources are found, it can be updated and vetted by staff. The items that will need to be confirmed at the meeting tonight will be the selection of the logo to be used for the program, as well as making any other final amendments to either the process or the verbiage that would be included that would be taken forward to council, such as the purpose of the program or anything like that. Things as far as how it looks on the web page or anything like that can certainly be done after council approval. The other notation that will be going to council is that the program doesn't have a sunset in it. So this isn't a year-long program as of right now. The commission could decide to end the program, or the city could decide to end the program at any point, but there's no clear sunset clause in it. And that the program will be evaluated in about a year based off of the number of participating organizations, response from the San Gabriel community, and then response from participating organizations, which could include a short survey that will be sent out to participating agencies via SurveyMonkey. So those would be the things that we would be presenting to council to show that there will be some data behind it, and if the program, no one's interested in the program, then potentially it would sunset at that time.
Thank you so much. This is I love all the work and I know this is part of the city council, but I'm wondering, since we have youth here, and we kind of hinted at this, like, is this something we want also in, for example, our classrooms? Do we want schools to be a part of that? And I want to get hear some feedback, because I know this is for businesses, right? And I know that's not our jurisdiction.
Well, and I don't know how much so the city can certainly promote it to the businesses, and we can certainly make a presentation. Maybe we can ask our students to make a presentation to the school board on what the city, assuming this gets approved, on this program that the city is getting ready to implement, to see if maybe the school can partner with us. I would think that would probably be as much as we can do in terms of encouraging the school board to be a part of it. But yes, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because I think when we were telling people about the campaign, we kind of advertised it as something anybody could put in their office. And in the near future, because a lot of people are out during the summer, it'll be harder to reach out. But once the school board meetings start again and in the school year, we can definitely reach out.
Matthew, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. I would also like to address something, since the idea is to put, I guess, a sticker or logo, or I guess to represent that all are welcome. I also feel like there should be something addressed, because I feel like our tensions are good, but there was this event that happened at Gabriel, and which was almost 2 weeks before school ended, and it was when there was pride flags at our school, and it was later reported that they were taken down. So I feel like there should be some of a conversation about how people might feel about this, or I guess talking about the safety for the ones that mentioned.
Kind of adding on to that, I think in that case, it would be good to open it up to counselors, because they would have one-on-one sessions, but it'd be harder to do it for actual teachers, because although the teachers control their behavior, it'd be impossible for them to control every single student's behavior, especially year after year when you get all these different mindsets and opinions.
Yeah, and it may be that this conversation has already been addressed by the school board. I mean, there's a lot of school districts that are having conversations around this right now. And so it might be worthwhile for, for both of you as our school representatives, right? Our student representatives to maybe take a look and see if that has been addressed at the school board. And then if there is a gap and we feel inclined to, when you feel inclined to want to take that to the school board to, ask them if they'd like to participate, and perhaps maybe even maybe even meet in advance with the superintendent to kind of find out like what the limitations are associated with that.
But I think either way, we could certainly ask to make a presentation to the school board once this gets approved. Again, just in the sense of informing them about a new program that's going to be available in the city and encouraging them, if they haven't opened those lines of communication in the schools, encouraging them to start to think about this as an area of discussion. So thank you very much for that. Matthew, is community development, business development going to be a part of getting the word out to local businesses?
Correct. Yeah, so that'll be the after approval phase. So once it comes back, the after portion will be discussed by the commission, and then we'll start moving.
Perfect. And then in terms of the logo, we did get 75 people who voted at our booth. So I think that's way better than we would have gotten if we had put it online or that kind of thing. The two top votes, the one with the heart and the raise was the top vote, and then the one with the bell was the second vote, number 5. So number 1 and number 5 were, I think our 1s and 5s are different than your 1s and 5s. So it looks like it's 2 and 5. 2 and 5. I think 4 was just was kind of modified. So it's 2 and 5 for the top votes. I don't know if it's possible to offer people a choice, if we can give them 2 or 5, because, just because.
I love the idea of giving people options, but I think for congruency and continuity, it's better to maybe just have the one so that it from a branding perspective and marketing perspective, it'll be very easily recognizable. So was it even?
No.
Between the two?
It was 33 for 5 and 19 for 2.
Oh, wow, that was a big difference.
So are we based it on the votes, or are we deciding here as well, or how are we deciding that?
I think we're deciding. I mean, the voting gave us our final 2, and I think we should decide.
So yes, so my input, this is just my input. Even though this one got lower votes, I like this one because it's just simpler, cleaner. That one is has a lot of different things. So it kind of my mind is I got am I looking at the bell? Am I looking at the heart? Am I looking at the rainbow? And I like this other one because it's all it's basically this one, but condensed into the bell.
I agree.
So that's what I like.
I agree as well.
I like having the heart, but I feel like the rainbow portion doesn't read as easily with the bands. So I don't know. Do you want to take a vote and see if we have some agreement, or how do you want to do it? Do a vote? Okay. So can we call them bell and then heart so we don't get confused with the numbers?
No, the bell or the heart.
So, okay, so it's the bell with the, okay, got
The
it.
bell with the
String,
new pride colors.
Right.
As opposed to the
just rainbow.
limited rainbow colors.
Got it.
So all in favor of the bell, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's good. And then all, just to be, I don't even know if we don't need to do it. So we'll be going with number 2. Yeah. Is that? The bell, yes. The bell. I know, this is 5. I know, yeah, no, we'll be going with the bell. The bell that is listed as number 2 on the screen.
And thank you so much, Chair, for your son's wonderful graphic art.
Don't have to use it
efforts.
just for him, but, thank you.
Yes, I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew?
Sure.
Sorry.
So if there could be a motion to approve the plan for submission to council for approval, utilizing the logo that the commission selected tonight with the amendments made tonight as well.
So moved. So I move that we utilize the logo, the amendments, and the project or the program as listed. Do we have a second?
I second.
A second. Adrian, if you could please take the vote.
Commissioner Brenthold,
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez Morris,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Khan,
Stay away from it. I didn't vote for that, but that's okay. I'll just say.
Vice, Vice Chair Godo,
Aye.
Chair Jennings Nunez,
Aye. And right now, we're not voting on the logo, we're voting on the whole program.
motion passed by a vote of 6 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, and 1 absent.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, so moving on to our commission reports, number 5. This is the time when commissioners can address the HEAR Commission in public on matters of general information and/or concern. This is also the time for commissioners to report on conferences and/or meetings they have attended. Do we have anyone who, well, just got anything?
So, yes, I had a meeting last week at the White House, which was pretty stellar, and I was able to meet with the Biden administration's deputies on racial equity and justice and infrastructure implementation, as well as administrative staff or deputies at DOT and at EPA. So that was really a wonderful opportunity to kind of hear directly from the highest office in the nation about what their intention is towards hopefully moving infrastructure funds or advancing racial justice and equity through implementation of infrastructure funds. And so I was very excited and very hopeful about that. And I do have an open, invitation to any staff who may be involved in infrastructure fund requests to help kind of facilitate that relationship with folks in DC if need be.
Commissioner Brunha?
Not much, just went to the Surf's Up event and we were at the HEAR Commission table and it was really great to see the engagement there, and just thank you so much to our youth ambassadors because you guys were kind of the heroes and the stars of the show there. You really, did a lot of work for us.
I attended the Healthy Living Grant Conference on June 2nd at City of Hope, and as I mentioned, I got our award and our giant check, which I will definitely be bringing to show off on stage. At the event, all of last year's recipients reported on their projects and prepared a poster for a poster session, and City of Hope printed all those posters, and the organizations are able to keep them, so we will next year have one for our Mental Wellness Expo. And I also got to meet a number of organizations that I think will be great partners for the HEAR Commission, one of which, Rainbow Labs, we promoted their youth mentoring program for LGBTQ youth at our Surf's Up table. And one last thing I just wanted to mention, if everyone, I could encourage everyone to please go to the website, sangabrielmountainsforever.org. There's a proposal that's being sponsored by Congress members Padilla and Judy Chu to expand the San Gabriel Mountain National Monument. And as we know, green space is an equity issue, so there's all kinds of information there on the website, and they are asking for people to help support that on a federal level by signing a petition. That's it for me.
Just 2 things to report. One is that there was one of the I've been working very closely with the victims of Monterey Park, and especially, this is affecting our mental health and, the safety of our community. So one of the victims was invited by Congresswoman Judy Chu to speak to the Congressional Panel on Gun Violence Reduction and Prevention. And so I was asked by one of the victims to help him with this speech and to craft a message. And so he testified before Congress, including Nancy Pelosi, and that speech was now published, most recently published on USA Today. So, and that is just showing that, what we need to do to help make our community safe from gun violence. And then the second initiative, which I talked about earlier, is, I met with Brandon Tsai today, and we talked about working together to destigmatize mental health for our youth. And as somebody that has gone through a very traumatic experience, this is something he's very passionate about. And so me and another nonprofit, we're going to work together along with the Asian Pacific Community Fund, San Gabriel Catalyst, and trying to do that work. So that's it.
Aaron?
So besides the Surf's Up event, I attended an electric vehicle fair at Rosemead Library because they were celebrating their newly installed EV chargers, and they wanted to have a fair to inform the public about the benefits of electric vehicles, and I thought that event was pretty cool.
I'm quite busy this week and last week. I attended a training called Western Justice Center, which was involving how to resolve conflict resolution, and meditation in school grounds, but also in communities or workplaces, and which is basically how to involves bringing people together without being left out. And another one, I guess, right now this week is just doing summer speech and debate.
Excellent. And I want to just highlight that our former Commissioner Jackie Borja bought, and I don't know if that's how you learned of the Western Justice Center, but she supplied that resource to our students and the students at Gabrielino and encouraged them to participate. So I'm really glad that you're able to take advantage of that. That's great. So I also want to highlight that we had a great time at Surf's Up. I put some pictures up on a PowerPoint because I just like PowerPoints. I just want to highlight as well that Community Services has a number of programs going on this summer. Basically, summer is the time for you. You can go to a free music or concert event throughout the city almost every day of the week. It's really great. And the next, there's Art in the Park that goes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the next concert is going to be actually 4th of July. So our 4th of July event is coming up next Tuesday, and then after that, on July 13th, there will be an event. And so we'll have Rebecca Perez, our director, just give us a little more information.
Actually, we have a concert this Thursday at the Mission Playhouse in the
Thank you.
plaza.
I
Louis
missed
Cruz
that.
Beltran, yep.
Okay, so it is 7 p.m. at the Mission Playhouse this Thursday. There is going to be another free concert. So as I said, you can basically listen to free music all summer long if you coordinate it correctly. And then Matthew will just play us out. So thank you so much to everybody, if you want to just look at the video, but to everybody who came out, we really appreciate your participation. And this is going to go quickly. kind of get out into the community. And as Vice Chair Godo said, we had one of the most poppin', booths, so we did a really great job, so thank you. Moving on to staff comments, this is where staff members have the opportunity to address the commission and public on matters of general information and/or concern. Matthew or Adrian, do you have any staff comments?
We do not.
So with that, the next regular HERE Commission meeting will be held on Tuesday, July 25th. Please remember to get your information into Matthew by July 17th. At 6:30 p.m. will be our meeting. Information regarding matters to be considered at each meeting will be available on the Friday before the HERE Commission meeting on the city's website at www.sangabrielcity.com. This regular meeting is now adjourned at 9.